You can probably tell from the picture where my allegiances are with the Cubs, but my favorite players to collect personally are Mark Grace, Kerry Wood, Ernie Banks, and I also collect Cubs team sets as well. So, on the off chance that, I mean, it's possible if you have something that I don't have that you think I might be interested in, talk to me afterwards. I'll share my email address with you. So I'm going to start off, before I get into the meat of the presentation, just a little quote here that's attributed to the late, great Yogi Berra, who once is attributed to have said, the future ain't what it used to be. And obviously, Yogi Berra is one of the most quotable Americans out there. Um, Unfortunately, he did pass away a few years ago, but he left us left behind lots of great quotes. And the reason I bring this up is because card collecting has changed dramatically over the years. If you were involved in the hobby 40 to 50 years ago, if you're old enough to have been around back then, it's not the same hobby that it was back then. It's not the same hobby it was 20 years ago. It's not even the same hobby it was 5 years ago. There's constantly innovations and changes to the hobby. Prices change, products change. A lot of different things have happened, and um, so I'm going to try to help you understand what's happened over the years and get a better knowledge of what it takes to collect. If you're wondering, maybe you're wondering, well, what are some of the benefits of collecting? What are some things that I can get from it? Well, for one thing, you can learn about the game, be it baseball or other sports. I spent a lot of time as a kid, and I still do sometimes, looking at my cards. And I've studied the backs of baseball cards a lot over the years. I've studied, um, various statistics from various players. I've learned a lot about stats and players just by studying the backs of their cards. But it also, as a child, it helped me to use my imagination as well, because I would look at the front of a card and I would look at a player making a play, and I'd be wondering, oh, what did he have to do to get to that point? What did he have to do before that play to get set up to make that play? What happened afterward? It's a great way to use your imagination as well. In this day and age where we have lots of computers and technology and all that, and many of us lament the effect that's the negative effects that it's had on our society. But having baseball cards with still action photos is a really cool way to use for kids, especially, but even for adults, to use their imagination. You can reminisce about memories. You can look back at your cards and you can think about, maybe it'll bring back memories of games that you watched or attended, or maybe it'll even bring back memories of spending time with your friends or family. You can look back and you might have a card from, say, 2003, and you could say, oh, I remember I was doing this back in 2003 or something like that. So that's another benefit. It's a great way to bond with friends and family. I've spent a lot of time with my brother and my dad, just talking about cards, looking at them, learning more about the game, having some great conversations about collecting with them and about the game of baseball in general with them. It's a great way to learn about money management and investing, especially for kids, but even for adults as well. You learn a lot about when you should buy, when you should hold, when you should sell something. And it's you learn about how to spend your money wisely, how to create a budget and stick to it, things like that. And you also can gain experience taking care of things. This is another point that is especially true with children. They need to learn, baseball cards obviously are something that can get damaged very easily if they're not handled properly. So it's a good idea to teach kids how to, make sure you don't ding the corners or crease them or get fingerprints all over them, things like that. So there's a lot of benefits to collecting, and these are some of the reasons why I've gotten involved in the hobby. And like I started to say earlier, there's a lot more to collecting than a lot of people realize. It can be intimidating at first, but I'm here to help. So I'm hoping that the information that I provide you tonight will indeed be beneficial to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a good deal of time here going over some terms that you're going to want to know. So when you get into collecting, there are some various terms and definitions that you're going to want to know. The first term I'm going to bring up is what we refer to as base cards. And base cards are just cards that are part of just a regular set that comes out every year, just like a regular top set that comes out every year. They put out what we refer to as base cards. They're the most common type of cards out there. And I have a picture of a base card on the screen right here, and you can see that it's got a photo on there. It's got, if you look in the top left corner, it's got the Topps logo on there. This is a Topps card. It's got the team logo. It's got the player name, OF for outfield, their position, and what team that they're on as well. Now, this is the back of that card right here, and you can see that it also has the team logo, the player name, position, team name. In the top right corner, you're going to see where it says 225 and then Series 1 underneath that. Most cards have a number, a card number assigned to them, meaning that that's the number in the set. If you're trying to put together the entire set of this particular set, this is card number 225. Now, the regular top set that comes out every year has a Series 1, a Series 2, and an update set, and they come out sequentially throughout the year. And this is so you can see that this is part of Series 1 if you look at this card right here. It has the backs of the cards will typically have player information such as their height, weight, what side they bat from, what side they throw from, when they were born and where they're from, how they were acquired, and when they were drafted. And recently, in the last several years, card companies have started putting handles for social media on the cards as well. So if you're looking for this player, Kyle Schwarber, if you're looking for him on Twitter or Instagram, you can see that his handles are right there, so that you can look for the player if you want to. Now, it's not as common as it used to be. It used to be that cards would list an entire player's career stats on the back, but we've kind of gotten away from that a little bit, where we put more other types of information on here. You can see there's a little blurb on here about something that this player accomplished over the past year. And then if you look down below, this is actually a 2018 card, but you'll see that the statistics only go up to 2016 and 17. We have major league stats, and this player actually was in the minor leagues for a little while in 2017, so you can see minor league stats there as well. And then you can also see MLB totals down there, meaning that those are the totals that they have accumulated over the course of their entire career for games played, at bats, runs, hits, etc. And then down towards the bottom, you have the copyright information, you have the Topps logo, you have the MLB and the Players Association logo, meaning that this particular card has been licensed by both of those entities. So there's a lot of information going on here on the backs of cards. Now, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Beckett price guide, but this is they're kind of the standard in price guides, and they have a price guide that they come out with regularly, and they divide players into what they call minor stars, semi-stars, and unlisted stars. Now, they do this to save a lot of space in their price guide. Instead of listing out every single card of every single set, what they'll do is they'll, towards the back, there will be a list of players under minor stars, under semi-stars, and under unlisted stars. And then when you go to look up, let's say 2021 Topps cards or something like that, and you look at the listing, instead of listing out every single player, they'll say, okay, the minor stars are worth this much money, semi-stars are worth this much, unlisted stars are worth this much. And then they'll list some of the players that are considered to be star players. They'll actually list out the price of each of those cards on there. But minor stars, semi-stars, and unlisted stars are kind of a tier of various rankings that they give players. Now, if a player is not one of those types of stars, then the card that you have is probably what we refer to as a common. A common is a base card that is not of a star player. This is the most common type of card that's out there. It's also the least valuable least valuable card out there is the common. So if you're looking up a card and it's of a player and you don't see them listed in the listing, and you don't see them in the minor, semi-stars, or unlisted stars section of the price guide, then you probably have a common, which, like I said, is the least valuable type of card. The next thing I'm going to talk about are rookie cards. A rookie card is a player's first card from a particular brand. Now I'm going to show you here. This is a rookie card right here. It usually has, make sure that you're looking for, if you're trying to determine whether a card is a rookie card, make sure you're looking for some kind of logo on the card, like you see on the screen right here, RC for rookie card, or it'll say rookie somewhere on the card right there. And the reason why this is important is because rookie cards, for the most part, tend to be more valuable than a player's second year card or third year card, and so on. So if you're trying to sell a rookie, or you think you might have a rookie, it's important to make sure that you can actually identify it as a rookie. Now I'm going to show you another card here. This card is not a rookie, but this is something that you're going to encounter, especially if you collect cards from Topps. Every year, Topps names an all-star rookie team, meaning that they'll pick a player from each position and award them the Topps all-star rookie award for that particular position. And if you see this rookie cup on the card, that means that player won that award for the past year. So this is not a rookie card right here, because it doesn't have that rookie card logo, but it does have the rookie cup logo on it. So you're going to want to make sure that you understand the difference between the two. I just want to make sure that you're aware of that, just in case you ever encounter that. If you ever see this particular logo on a card, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is a rookie card. The next term that I'm going to point out to you is a short print. A short print card is a card with a limited print run. Now, sometimes you'll even see the term SSP, which is super short print. But SP is a term meaning short print, meaning that the card was not printed. Not as many cards were printed as normal in that case. Now, some sets have SPs, short prints, in them. And a lot of times it'll actually say it's an SP in the price guide if you're looking it up, but it doesn't necessarily say it on the card always. Sometimes it will, but it doesn't always. So you might be wondering, well, how do I identify whether a card's a short print or not? One very common way to identify whether a card is short print. Now, not all short printed cards are serial numbered. But if a card is serial numbered, that means that the print run is specified on the card. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of these here. Here's one, excuse me, that this is from my collection. This is a Mark Grace card from my collection. You can see that the print run on this card is $3.99. It says, the card actually says 029/399 on the card, meaning that there were 399 of these cards made, and that this was the 29th one. So somewhere out there floating around, there's a 001, a 002, and so on. People tend to pay more money, not always, but in a lot of cases, people tend to pay more money for serial numbered cards that are either the first print run, or the first one, the last one, or a player's jersey, like Mark Grace's jersey is 17. So if the 017/399 of this were to surface somewhere, it might sell for a little bit more money than this card would. It's hard to say. Sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't, but there's a good chance that could happen. Now, the next card I'm going to show you here is what we call a one-of-one card, meaning that this is the rarest type of card that's out there. This is a card from my collection. There is only one of these cards in existence. I happen to own only one. So if you see a 1/1 on the card, that means that it is a one-of-one, the only one in existence, and this might be the only time that you ever see that card surface if you see it for sale at a card show or on eBay or somewhere like that. So just be aware of that, and make sure that you know the difference. Make sure you're able to differentiate between a serial number and a card number, which I showed you the card number earlier. Serial number cards that are serial numbered oftentimes will be serial numbered on the front. Sometimes they will be serial numbered on the back. I'd say it's probably more common that it's on the front, but it's not uncommon to see it on the back of the card as well. Okay, so the next term I'm going to bring up is a variation, and a variation is a base card that is different from the regular cards. So a variation might be the regular card might show a player up to bat, whereas the variation might be the same card in the set, but it might be a different photo. It might be a player jumping at the wall to make a catch in the outfield or something like that. So you'll see variations sometimes. Again, it's hard to sometimes differentiate these, but if you're ever unsure, you can always go like on eBay or on Beckett or somewhere like that and look it up and see if what you have is a variation or not. Okay, so an insert is a card that is not part of the base set and that's part of a special set. Now, going back to serial numbered for just a second, some inserts are serial numbered, but not always. Some base cards are serial numbered, but not always. So they may or may not be serial numbered, but the inserts are different from the base cards because I was just opening some packs of cards the other day that had 11 cards per pack, and each pack had an insert in it. Meaning that it was one of the cards in there was a special card that's not part of the regular set, but that it's part of a special set, like some kind of subset or something like that of that particular card. Now, there's a few different type of inserts that I'm going to talk about. One of them is a parallel. A parallel is like a base card, but with some sort of modification to it. Again, these are sometimes serial numbered, but not always. So I'm going to show you here. This is a card from my collection. This is just a regular Ernie Banks card right here. This is just a regular base card. This is not a parallel, but I'm going to show you on the next slide. I'm going to show you some parallels of this card. You can see that this card has a beige background. Now, these are there's a lot of different parallels to this particular one. You can see these are all serial numbered, but there are 9 parallels on the screen here. You can see one of them has a green background, one of them has a red background, one of them has a sea green background. The rarest one is the purple one, which you probably can't see that very well, but it only has a print run of 25. That's the rarest one that's on the screen right here. But these cards, these are all parallels of that first card that I showed you, meaning that it's almost exactly the same, but it has some sort of little difference or modification to it. And I also do own a couple of other parallels from this, but this is 9 particular ones that I wanted to show you here, just so you can get an idea of what a parallel is. The next term that I'm going to familiarize you with is a game used card. A game used card has a piece of authentic material inside the card, and you might be thinking, if you're brand new to collecting, you might be thinking that this is really kind of weird, but it's true. This is I have 2 of them on the screen here. This is the top one is an Ernie Banks card. The bottom one is a Mark Grace card. The top one has a piece of game used jersey, meaning that they took a jersey that Ernie Banks wore in a game. They cut out a little piece of it and they inserted it into the card. Same thing with the Mark Grace card down there with the bat. They actually shaved a piece of a game used bat off and put it in the card like that. So this is something that started 20 some years ago. They started, I think 1997 was when the first game used cards first came out. And it was quite an innovation. There's a lot of them floating around today, so it's not as big of a deal as it used to be, but they're still pretty cool, especially new collectors. I know a lot of new collectors that get a kick out of that whenever they see something like that. Another term is an autograph. Autograph is a certified autograph is what we refer to as an autograph card, or some people just refer to them as autos or AUs. here's a, I'll show you one here. This is an Ernie Banks autograph card right here, meaning that he actually signed this one. And there are three main types of autograph cards. There are on-card autographs, meaning that the player signed the card directly on the card. Those are the ones that collectors tend to gravitate towards the most. There also are stickers, which what'll happen is a player will sign a sticker, and the card company will put the sticker on the card to display the autograph that way. Sometimes you'll also run into what are referred to as cut autographs, meaning that this is especially true of like older players or whatever. What they'll do is they'll find like an old check that a player signed many years ago or something like that. They'll cut out the signature and they'll insert that into the card in like a little slot or something like that. That's what we refer to as a cut autograph. So there's three different kinds of autographs. But make sure you understand that certified autographs and in-person autographs are not the same. Sometimes collectors will sell in-person autographs, meaning that they met the player at spring training and got them to sign the card in person or something like that. I tend not to buy those unless they have some kind of authentication certificate with them, which you can send. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes here, but you can actually send autographed cards or memorabilia to companies, and they can certify them as real. But if somebody is just selling a card that they got signed in person by somebody, I tend not to buy those. Just because you don't know whether it's a fake or not, which most of them are not, but once in a while you will run into a fake autograph, which is why I like to make sure that they're certified. And the certified cards typically will have some sort of, there'll be something on the back that says, congratulations, you've received, if you pull it from a pack especially, it'll say, congratulations, you've received an official autograph card. This autograph is guaranteed to be authentic, or there'll be some sort of statement like that on the card, usually on the back, to indicate that it is indeed a certified autograph. Vintage. Everyone's definition of what makes a card vintage, quote unquote, is different. Some people will say it should be 1960s or later. Some people will say 1970s. Some people will even say that cards from the 1990s are vintage, which I don't agree with that. My personal opinion is that anything that is pre-1980, I would consider those to be vintage. But it's a term with a loose definition, so you're probably going to run into people that'll disagree with me, or at least use the term differently than I use it. But I tend to say that anything that is pre-1980, I would consider to be vintage. Now, this is a vintage card right here. This is a 1968 Topps of a Ferguson Jenkins. This is a card that my dad used to own, and he handed it down to me. Vintage cards tend, because they're so old or they've been handled so much, or a little of both, tend not to be in as good of condition. It's rare to find mint vintage cards. Typically they have at least a little bit of wear to them. This one, you might be able to tell down towards the bottom right corner, has a little bit of a surface scuff to it. But it's in pretty good shape. The corners are still decent for it being a card that's over 50 years old, 53 years old, I think, something like that. It's still in pretty decent shape, but again, don't expect vintage cards to be in as good of condition as more modern cards are. Now, sometimes you're going to run into reprints. And reprints are reissues of an old card. Could be sometimes they're base cards, sometimes they're insert cards. But this is where you're going to want to be careful, because it is possible that you could misidentify vintage, misidentify a reprint as a vintage card. I'm going to show you two cards here side by side. One of them is the card on the left is the this is a 1999, which I know this isn't vintage, but at least by my definition, but this is a 1999 Topps Kerry Wood card. On the left, and on the right is a reprint of that card. Now you can see it has kind of that rougher gloss finish to it, so it's pretty easy to tell that the one on the right is a reprint while the one on the left is an original. But it's not always that easy to tell. Sometimes sometimes they don't make them as distinguishable from the regular cards. So I'll show you the backs of the cards here. Well, tip for one thing, the card on the right, which is the reprint, is serial numbered, so that's a pretty dead giveaway in this particular case. But besides that, you can also see there's also a statement down there that says Topps Rookie Cut Baseball reprint down there. So on the back of the card, you can identify that this is indeed a reprint. If you're looking at a card and trying to determine that or not, it's typically a good idea to look at the back and see whether it's a reprint or not. So that's one pretty easy way that you can tell. Now, how cards over the years, how they've evolved is that for years Topps was it. Now, back in the late 40s and early 50s, there used to be the Bowman brand. As well, but I think they stopped around 1955 or 6, I want to say. And Topps, for years, Topps would just issue one set a year, and then that was it. But starting in the 1980s, we started getting more brands emerging. We saw other brands such as Fleer, Leaf, Dunruss, and others. And then 1989 was a really big one. That was Upper Deck. And Upper Deck had the glossier finishes to the cards, and they had holograms on them to show that they were real and not counterfeit cards. The 1989 Upper Deck famously has the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. That's worth a lot of money these days. But yeah, more brands emerged in the 1980s, and not only that, but Topps started issuing more brands as well. They started issuing more products. And as a result, this led to an oversaturation of the market. Not only were there so many cards in existence, so many different brands, but they were being mass produced, they were being overproduced as well. And, a lot of people come to me, and I hate when this happens, because people will come to me and say, hey, I've got these cards from the late 80s or early 90s, and I'm hoping to be able to sell them. Can you tell me what they're worth? And I'll have to explain to them that your best bet probably is next time you have a garage sale to set them out with a label that says free on it, because if you try to sell those cards online, you're not even going to make what they're worth to ship them, just because they're just not worth anything, unfortunately, unless you have some mint condition rookie cards of some players might sell for some money, but for the most part, those cards just aren't worth very much, unfortunately. Now, in the 1990s, we started seeing the game used cards. I think I alluded to that earlier. Around 1997 was when the game used cards started coming out, and also the autograph cards as well. We started seeing autograph cards inserted into packs. Today, for baseball, Topps is the only officially licensed company. Now, there are some other brands that are officially licensed from the NFL and the NBA, as well as other leagues. But as far as Major League Baseball is concerned, Topps is the only officially licensed company. And what that means is that other brands such as Dunruss, today they still make baseball cards, but they're not allowed to use team logos or team names. So typically what they'll have to do is they'll have to airbrush the team logos off the players' uniforms when they have the photos of them on the cards. And instead of saying Chicago Cubs or Detroit Tigers on the card, it'll just say Chicago or Detroit or something like that. So if you're looking to buy some cards, like if you're looking for want to open up some packs of cards and have some fun with that, recommended a few products that I would recommend for beginners. Just the regular old Topps. You can't go wrong with that. Topps Opening Day is a great one for children because this is a lower end product that you're not going to get. There's not your chances of they don't have higher end cards in them, but they're great for set building, and they're relatively inexpensive. They're one of the cheapest products out there. I don't mean cheap by quality. I mean cheap as in price. They're not high end. You're not going to probably get a lot of autographs or game used cards or anything like that. But if you buy packs of these, but they're great for kids because they're just typical base cards that aren't really expensive. There's also Topps Heritage, which is always really popular when it comes out every year. Topps Heritage, what they'll do is they will take, it's a set that comes out every year where they will take an old card design and they will put modern players on them. So I think last year they did, I think the 1971 Topps, if I remember correctly. What they did was they reissued the 1971 design, but they put modern players in on the card. So it's kind of neat. A lot of people really enjoy that. Enjoy those when they come out every year. There's also Bowman, which is known for their rookie. They call themselves Home of the Rookie card, it's a Topps brand, but it's good for collecting rookie cards. And there's also Bowman Heritage as well. If you're looking to go a step up and get some higher end products, some products that I would recommend would include Topps Chrome, Bowman Chrome, Stadium Club, Bowman's Best Topps Finest or Topps Gold Label, and then some more that I would suggest: Topps Allen and Ginter, Topps Gypsy Queen, Topps Archives, Topps Gallery, or Bowman Draft. Bowman Draft is where the players that were recently part of the draft in the past year, they'll issue rookie cards for all those players, and that set comes out every year. It's always really popular with collectors as well. Now, if you're looking for some higher end products, some products that I'd recommend that are more expensive, you're going to get a lot nicer cards, meaning you're going to get more autographs, more game used cards, more star players, but of course, they'll be more expensive. But I would recommend, if you're looking for the higher end stuff, I would recommend Topps Tribute, Topps Triple Threads, Topps Sterling, Topps Inception, Topps High Tech, and Topps Dynasty. Those are some higher end products that you might want to look at. Hobby versus retail. This is important because hobby retail boxes are the ones that you typically get if you go to, say, your local Walmart or Meijer or somewhere, or even Walgreens sometimes. They'll carry retail boxes of cards or retail packs of cards, meaning that they're less expensive than the hobby boxes are or the hobby packs, but there's less chance of hits, or meaning less chance of getting those special insert cards that you're looking for. Whereas hobby boxes are more expensive because you have a better chance of getting those big name cards in there. Hobby boxes are typically what are sold at hobby shops. And I'm not sure, off the top of my head, I'm not sure if you have any hobby shops around where you are or not, but near where the library is. But if you do, that's where you typically get hobby boxes from. Now, in terms of determining a card's value, book value today means less than it used to because of online sales. eBay has kind of watered things down a little bit, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but well, in some ways it's bad, but in some ways it's good because it's made the hobby a lot more accessible. But it's also lowered the value of a lot of cards as well. So you might look at a Beckett price guide and see that a card is worth a particular amount. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to sell for that, especially on eBay. What you're going to want to do is if you have a card and you want to know what it's been selling for on eBay or another site like that, you can always go do an advanced search on eBay and choose the completed listings option to see what that particular card has been selling for recently. Now, in terms of grading, grading is a professional evaluation of the condition of a card. Now, I talked earlier about autograph authentication. Grading is another service that you see quite a bit. And what people will do is they will send their cards in the mail, or sometimes if you go to card shows, there'll be people that will take submissions in person. You can either submit them in person or you can mail them and get the card professionally evaluated. And they will look at, they'll evaluate it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best. And they will look at things like corners, the edges, the surface, the centering, and the autograph, if applicable, if there is an autograph on the card. Now they will authenticate in-person autographs. Remember earlier I talked about certified versus in-person autographs. These companies will authenticate autographs and grade them as well, along with the other attributes of the card that I have listed on the screen here. Some of the grading companies that you'll run across, PSA is probably the most common one that's used, but there's also Beckett, SCG, and there's others as well. The cost widely varies, and it could depend on the value of the card. Typically, the more valuable a card is, the more expensive it'll be. Or if you're submitting multiple cards at one time, a lot of times companies will give you price breaks on it as well. Now here is this is a 1957 Topps Don Drysdale rookie card, and this got a 7 ranking out of 10 overall, which is pretty good for a card that is over 60 years old. It got a 7 out of 10, and you can see that there's an OC next to the 7. If you ever see the OC next to a number on a graded card, that means off center is what that stands for, meaning that this card is off center, but you can tell that it is off center a little bit. You might be wondering, well, is it worth getting a card graded or not? And it depends on usually vintage cards of star players, especially rookies. Excuse me. Those are typically worth getting graded, or if you have very rare or very valuable cards, like if you have like a Michael Jordan basketball rookie card, I would highly recommend getting that card graded, just because it's a worthwhile investment. It'll sell for a lot more money. And I'm sure it'll be a worthwhile investment to you to get the card graded, not only because people will know what condition it's in, but also because people will know it's authentic and that it's not a fake card as well. So if you're getting into collecting some supplies that you're going to want to get, you're going to want to get some top loaders and some penny sleeves as well. To be able to protect the cards, to prevent them from, if you're handling them quite a bit, that will protect them from getting fingerprints, or if you accidentally drop it. Like I mentioned before, cards are very easy to damage. So if you drop it and you have it in a top loader or even in a penny sleeve, the odds are a lot less that it's going to get damaged if you do that. Or maybe you don't want to store them that way. Maybe you'll want to store them in binders or album sheets. In that case, you're going to want to get some of those. You might want to get some storage boxes, and I don't mean like a shoebox. I wouldn't, especially cards that aren't protected at all, I wouldn't just throw them in a shoebox. I would, I mean, they probably would be okay if you had them in top loaders, but if you don't have them in top loaders and they're just floating around in there, when you move the shoebox around, the corners will ding against the sides, and that's not good. So make sure that there are boxes that are made specifically for storing sports cards in them. So you might want to look for some of those. Make sure that you store them in a climate controlled area. That's important. And please be careful handling them. I know I've brought that up a couple times already, but I can't emphasize enough that it's very important to make sure that you handle them properly. When you're opening up packs of cards, make sure you're grabbing them by the edges. Always wash your hands before handling them so that you don't get any fingerprints or anything like that on the cards. Just be really careful with your collection. Some tips for getting started: set a budget and stick to it. Check on card conditions, especially if you're buying in person or if you're buying online. Check to make sure that the card is in good shape. Ask questions of the person selling it if you need to. Focus on what you want. Do you want to collect? Are there certain teams that you want to collect? Are there certain players you want to collect? Or do you want to build sets? Maybe that's something that interests you, but pick some kind of focus for your collection and stick with that. Do your research and find the best deal, just like you would buying anything else with your money. If you are in the market for a particular card, and as long as it's not extremely rare, chances are you can find it in multiple places. So look around eBay, look at the different listings that are on there, see the different conditions, see what people are selling them for, and try to find the best possible deal. Because the first one that you find may not necessarily be the best deal. Somebody might have it for cheaper or in better condition. And you can't collect everything. Like I emphasized earlier that there are so many products out there. I'm a Mark Grace collector. Mark Grace is one of my all-time favorite players. I own over 1,000 of his cards, but I don't even own half of what's out there. He has over 2,000 cards out there. And I own maybe half of what's out there. And I've been collecting him since I was a kid. Just because some cards are more expensive than I want to pay, or I just haven't been able to find them yet. So you're not going to be able to get everything. So the sooner you realize that, the better off you'll be. Prospecting is something that I would only recommend. I wouldn't recommend for beginners. I'd only recommend it for people that have a lot of knowledge of the game. And that's buying up cards of prospects. Like I talked about the Bowman Draft product that comes out. Prospecting is when you buy up a whole bunch of copies of a prospect and then hoping to resell them later once they hit the big time, which sometimes works. If you bought a whole bunch of Mike Trout cards before he became a star, congratulations, because now you'll be able to sell them for a lot more money. But for every prospect that makes it big, there are several prospects or more that don't make it big. So it's a gamble for sure. So do your research, and some people make money doing it, but it's very hard to do. So make sure that you are careful if that's something you decide to do. Some websites worth visiting. eBay.com. I've alluded to eBay a few different times during this presentation. They're kind of the they're the most popular website for they're kind of the standard setter in terms of price for buying and selling cards. There's also marketplace.beckett.com where you can go. There's blowoutcards.com, which is a company that you can buy boxes of cards from, but you can also they also have message boards on there that you can buy, sell, and trade as well. COMC, Check Out My Cards, is another one. And Sport Lots, which is really good for Sport Lots is really good for buying individual cards. If you're just like a couple cards short of completing a set or something like that, Sport Lots is a really good website to visit. Things to watch for on eBay. The term one of one used loosely. A lot of people, if you'll remember earlier, I alluded to how serial numbered cards, like the first one printed, tends to sell for more money. Some people on eBay will refer to those cards as one of ones, which is irritating to me because they're not really one of ones. So be careful. Just because the title says one of one, read the description carefully to make sure that you fully understand what exactly it is that you have. Or that the person has. Keyword stuffing, for example, putting non-auto in a title, hoping that people that are looking for auto cards will find their listing on eBay. Again, that's it's frustrating to me, but people do it, and I guess there's not really anything we can do to stop them from doing it. So it's not necessarily dishonest, but it's irritating. Hot packs, where people will sell packs of cards guaranteed game used or auto cards. I've bought hot packs a few times. I haven't done it very much. I'm not going to say that you should never do it, but just be careful, because a lot of people will say, oh, well, in my packs you have a chance of getting this card, and the chance of actually getting that card are rare. Because they just randomly insert cards into the packs and mail them out. So just be aware of that. And then fake cards, like I said, it doesn't have, most people are good, honest people, but once in a while somebody will try to sell a fake card. So just use your best judgment and try to be aware, especially if you're in the market for I will say that Michael Jordan rookie cards are there are some fake Michael Jordan rookie cards out there. So if you see one that's at a price that's too good to be true, it means it probably is too good to be true. So just some things to be aware of if you're looking on eBay for cards. That concludes my portion of the presentation, although I will take questions from anybody that has them. But if you have any questions that you think of after the presentation's over and that you're not thinking of right now, or you just want to drop me a line and tell me about your collection or whatever, I always like to hear from fellow collectors. So my email is brjohnston1985@yahoo.com. I certainly would be happy to hear from fellow collectors about any questions they have, or any experiences they want to share with me or anything like that. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of this, and I will stop my screen share, and if anybody has any questions, I'll go ahead and take them.
Okay, Brian, we do have several questions that were sent in. Before I get to the questions, to all of our attendees, that you can send me a question simply by using that Q&A button that's at the bottom of your Zoom webinar screen. So if you press on that, you can type your question in, and I will relay it to Mark. So we're going to get to the first question here. And Brian, attendee Mark has a series of questions here. So we'll start with the first one. He says, it seems that individual cards from a set sold separately are worth more than the set in its entirety. Is this true? And if so, why?
That's kind of a hard question to answer, but I'll answer it as best as I can. In many cases, you are correct. A complete set typically will not sell for as much as an individual card. In that set, that is usually truer with lower end sets. because people typically because there are player collectors out there that like to collect specific players or specific teams. But some people, and the other thing that I'll say about that is that a lot of people like to put the sets together by themselves. Buying a set that's already put together isn't something that seems to be too popular in the hobby. I mean, it is for some people, but there seems to be a lot more of a market to buy individual teams or individual sets. And you're right, with lower end cards, especially with lower end sets, especially people who are team collectors or set collectors are typically willing to pay more for those. I will say that like I buy every year when Topps comes out, I always buy the Cubs team set on eBay for, as soon as it comes out. I always buy that every year. And the sets of the 30 teams added together are definitely going to sell for more individually than the whole set is. And I think that's like I said, I think that's because player and team, because it's more, there's more people out there that collect players and teams as opposed to collecting entire sets. Collecting entire sets is kind of cumbersome just because the Topps set that comes out every year typically has 700 cards in it, and storing those cards and finding a place to put them is not always easy. But people that collect players or teams, those cards are typically easier to display and easier to find than looking through an entire set. So that's how I would answer that question.
Okay, thank you. Next, he wants to know, well, I think you already kind of touched on this a little bit about the clear binder sheets. Is it beneficial to store display cards in the clear binder sheet? And you did address that. And he wants to know, are they worth more that way if sold? And I think you did talk about that as well.
Yeah, I don't think they're necessarily worth more if you sell them that way. You might be able to sell them for a little bit more than that at card shows, just because, and that would only be because the sheets come with them. But I don't think it necessarily increases the value of the card, though, on its own.
So aside from regular card prices at Beckett, is there anywhere to find rare error misprint cards lists and prices?
Beckett is still the place to go for that, because they will, if you're looking for a particular misprint card, because this is something that I did not address during the presentation, are misprints. There are some misprint cards out there that make it through to production. Obviously, it's not always on purpose, but if you look there, I'm not aware of other than Beckett, I'm not aware of a specific place that you could go to actually find a list of those. You could certainly search for them on eBay, but you could open up a Beckett price guide, and if there are any errors that are part of that set that made it through past the production stage, those will typically be listed in the price guide.
And I think that touches on our next question by attendee Paul S., who asks, is Beckett still the premier pricing guide? From the librarian's perspective, I can tell you, because that's my area of collection development, that we consider Beckett to be what we call a reference standard. So it's one of the main tools that we use for that purpose. But we know that Brian also suggests finding values using eBay. What do you think about that, Brian, about the Beckett guide?
I like the reason why I think it's still very relevant and very important is because it does, like I alluded to the to the minor stars, the semi-stars, the unlisted stars earlier, it's still valuable in the sense that it will let you know what players are, the value of certain players, not necessarily cards too, but it'll let you know the value of certain players and how their cards are doing on the market right now. But in terms of price, it's not as good of an indicator as it used to be. And for example, a typical game used jersey card of just a common player. I don't want to say a bad player because there's no bad players in the major leagues, but once you get to that level, but of a player that's not a star, typically those the Beckett price guide will say those are worth anywhere from $10 to $20. But you're going to have a hard time if you go to a card show or if you sell them online. You're going to have a hard time selling those for anything more than about $4 or $5, if that. Just because the market's kind of become a little oversaturated with those types of cards. The other thing about Beckett is that it does provide some insight into some rarer cards. So what it is good. Another thing that it's still very good for is cards that don't sell online very often because they're so rare. It's pretty good for giving a good indication of what that card is likely to sell for, especially at a card show as opposed to online.
Paul S's next question: which grading service is the best, and which one is the least expensive?
PSA is kind of the standard. They're also going to be probably the most expensive. I think that SCG SGC. They're going to be. They're probably going to be the cheapest, but I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't have, or I don't have a list of pricing with me. But if you're looking for to get the most value out of your experience, PSA is the way to go. The PSA cards are going to sell for the most. If you're looking to grade a card and then sell it afterwards, PSA is where you're going to get the most value.
Anonymous asks, is it more lucrative to sell an entire collection or 1 year, not necessarily complete, of a collection, or is it better to sell the more valuable cards separately?
I would say selling the more valuable cards separately, because I have tried to post like lots of cards, like groups of cards of just miscellaneous cards for sale on eBay before, and I don't get as much money for them as I do if I list them out individually. If you sell an entire collection, you'll get close to what it's worth on, like, say, eBay or in person. It's probably going to be bought from a dealer who's going to be looking to resell them. Whereas if you sell cards individually, you're more likely to get people interested in who are interested in that particular player or team. So I would say spreading out a collection and selling the cards individually if you can. I know it's more time consuming, but you're probably going to make more money doing that.
Okay. Paul S. with another question: better to have a card graded in order to sell it, and should you break up a set to do it?
Now here's an interesting case, because some people will try. This isn't something that you see often, but sometimes you will see. Like just recently, I saw somebody trying to sell a Tigers team set, and I don't remember what year it was from, but all the cards were graded, and I think they all graded 8 or 7 or something like that. It was a vintage set. In that particular case, I think that you would do well to sell it as to sell them together. Um, I would not, personally, if I had a complete set of graded cards, I probably would not break them up. I probably would sell them together, because I don't think in that particular case, my opinion would be that you're not going that it's not you're not going to make enough, if any at all, to make it worth it. So I would keep them together in that case.
Okay, thank you. Our attendee Robert K asks your suggestions for appraisals of collections.
I would find a local card shop, and most card dealers are really good about this. I would take it to, I would just find a local hobby shop, and I'm not sure, around Livonia, I'm not sure where the closest one is, but I would recommend finding one and just taking it in there and just showing it to them, and say, hey, would you look at this and tell me what it's worth? And they're usually really happy to do that. They may or may not be interested in buying it from you, but that would be my recommendation. The other thing that I would do, and I think I alluded to this during the presentation, if you're this is going to be really hard to do if you are selling an entire collection. But if you have an individual card, go to eBay, do an advanced search, and do the completed listings setting. And that will tell you what a card has been selling for in the past. So that's a couple different things you can do.
Thank you. Anonymous asks, is it safe to send an entire collection through the mail to be graded?
It's safe, except it's probably going to take a long time. I don't, I'll be upfront with you. I don't grade cards very often. But from what I know of it, it's safe, but be prepared. It could take like a couple months before you get them back sometimes, just depending on the company and what their process is and everything. So it's safe. I've never heard of anybody complain that the company lost their cards or anything like that. I've never heard of that happening. But make sure you use tracking, use insurance and delivery confirmation when mailing that stuff out. And just I guess be prepared, because you don't know what a card's going to grade when you send it in there. So, I mean, you can guess, but you don't know what it's going to grade. So just be prepared for, whatever result that you get.
Thank you, Brian. Next question by attendee Ken L. He asks, what is the best way to keep updated on time and locations of card shows?
If you go to do an online search for Beckett show calendar. I don't have the URL in front of me, but they have a list. They list card shows on Beckett's website. If you just search for show, if you search for Beckett show calendar, it'll come up. And they'll have a list of all the different shows going on. You can narrow it down by state. There are also a lot of Facebook groups that you can join as well that advertise their card shows. So I will tell you that there is one coming up in Lansing on April. I don't remember the exact date. April 20, whatever that fourth Saturday is in April. They have a card. I don't remember the exact date, but they have a card show coming up in Lansing there, and then there's one in Jackson in May. I actually worked at the Jackson show this past weekend. They switch back and forth between Jackson and Lansing. How far away off the top of my head, how far away from you, like, do you know if do you happen to know, like, are there any shows in Detroit? I wonder, do you know?
Well, I have seen them. I've seen them pop up before. I've seen advertisements for them before.
Okay.
So Paul S. has an interesting question here. I like this question. Is there anywhere to donate commons and minor stars?
Yeah, I would recommend if you have those cards, and honestly, you're not going to sell them for very much money, so you're probably going to be do well to donate them somewhere. Um, I would recommend donating them to your local Goodwill or your local secondhand store. They're also, you might want to also contact if there's like a hospital in the area. I don't know if any hospitals have kids that are looking for cards. Maybe you could contact them and see if they'd be interested in taking them and giving them out to children. Yeah, I hate to just, you don't want to just throw them away. So if there's a few places that I would look to try to find them a good home.
I think most of these places would take up to 70,000 cards.
I don't know. You'd have to contact them individually and ask them. I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. Warren, attendee Warren asks, is it worth getting common cards graded, and can cards be sold online or to a dealer or a hobby store that aren't graded?
I'll answer the second part first. Yes, they can. You're just not going to get as much money for them as if they're not graded. If they're not graded, you're not going to get as much money for them. To answer the first part of that question, I would not recommend grading common cards. Some people do it, and to be perfectly blunt, I really don't understand why they do. Just because common cards that are worth 25 cents or something like that, if you grade it, you're not going to increase the value very much. So it's just not worth it. Like I think I said in the presentation, I would grade rookie cards, vintage cards, autograph cards, rare cards, but commons, I don't think it's worth doing it with those.
Attendee Warren's follow-up question. If I send my cards to get graded, will I know upfront how much this will cost? And does each card cost the same to grade, or do they charge more depending on the value of the card?
Yeah, they do charge more depending on the value, and they are upfront about it. If you go on these places, if you go on their websites, they'll tell you how much it's worth or how much it will cost. They're not gonna say, "Oh, give it to us and we'll bill you later" or something. They're not going to do that. They'll be upfront about how much it costs.
Okay, very good. There's a final question by attendee Ken L. But before I ask that question, I want to first of all, I want to thank all of our attendees for coming to attend this program. I think it's been wonderful. Brian, you've been great. This has really been a wealth of knowledge. And I want to thank you for participating in this as well. And I want to remind all of our attendees that a recording of this presentation will be made available on our library's Facebook page. So you can look for that anytime. We should have that up hopefully by tomorrow evening. If not, I'm not sure if the person who does that is going to be around, but if it's not tomorrow, it'll be Monday for sure. Okay, so Brian, I want to thank you very much. I've got one final question from Ken L. And after that, Brian, when we end the session, I will be giving you a quick call. I've got some information for you and a question.
Okay.
But the last question here for you by attendee Ken L. I have noticed that boutique cards are becoming more popular. Do you see that trend continuing? And also, in your opinion, will they have as much value as official Topps products?
What cards have become more popular?
Boutique cards. I guess these are cards from boutique dealers or I mean boutique manufacturers, people that are doing special sets.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, I think that my personal opinion is that this is a trend that that will continue. I think that the more and I've seen some of these cards, the more non-traditional cards that are coming out. I think it's something that is gaining in popularity with collectors, and I think it'll continue to do so. Just because, and the reason I say that is because people are looking for more higher end products all the time. So I think that there's always going to be a special place for just the commons, the base cards from Tops, like I mentioned before. But these higher end cards, I think that there's still I think that the market for them is going to continue to grow, just because it's a hobby that is so many people will lament is getting more expensive, but at the same time, it is I do think that that's something that'll continue. Yeah.
Well, Brian, again, you've been great. I really appreciate what you've done for us. I'm sure that all of our attendees do as well. Before I end our session, I want to remind all of our attendees that if you're looking for the Beckett price guides, I just bought the most recent one a few months ago, and that is already in our collection. So please consider visiting the Livonia Public Library to get card values. And also, you'll want to take a look at our cyber calendar for other great programming that we have going on at the Livonia Public Library. Brian, once again, I want to thank you. You've been great. And I want to thank all of our attendees and hope to see you at the library and at one of our other programs.
Yeah, this is a good audience. I liked having all those questions. Thank you.
Yeah, the audience did really well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, everybody, we're going to end the session. And again, hope to see you at the library. And Brian, I'll be giving you a call in just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Come on. End meeting for all. That was excellent, Brian. We ended up having 19 attendees, and that's actually pretty good for one of our Zoom programs. So I understand that our finance department already sent you the check. Okay.